Increasingly, there are two-family households that are two-person households working. They have a declining birth rate. They actually have the lowest birth rate in all the world. So as a result, of course, they have an aging population. And pets are really important to them, so that pets are really becoming more so as family members, and again, there might be an opportunity there. And there's an increasingly amount of health consciousness. I think that sort of goes hand in hand with populations that have sort of exploded, suddenly become more environmentally aware. And so there's a tremendous demand for organic and natural foods, functional foods or health and beauty, drinks, et cetera, and real serious food concerns about edible oil scares, ractopamine, which is primarily used in hogs. I don't know if it's used in any other livestock. It basically helps them to continue to gain weight without putting on fat. And of course, mad cow disease were concerns that precipitated the move toward more healthy, conscious foods. So in terms of the organic sector, it's growing at a steady rate. It's growing at 20% a year, which is rather fantastic. I think globally the organic movement or organic market is growing at about 12%. So it's almost double in Taiwan. They've had sales of about $185 million, which is only 1% of their sales. So there's lots of room for growth in this sector. And they already import over 50% of the products that are organically grown into their country. Actually, Taiwan only grows about 30% of its food needs. So there's a tremendous need for the population as a whole to import just about anything that they're consuming. They're very proud of their organic certification. They have their own label, but they've also had officially recognized Canada's label, and we also saw the OCIA and USDA certification labels on many of the products there. A typical picture of downtown Taipei, just to give you a picture of what the city's like. One thing that's really noticeable is the number of independent entrepreneurs as opposed to big box stores and franchises. They exist. The big box stores that we saw, particularly really high-end stores, like shopping malls that I couldn't imagine buying anything in them because they were just like such expensive stores. And a few franchises that you'd recognize in North America. But the overwhelming number of shops were all independent store owners. So this is the Minfu tofu factory. This actually, we were told several times while we were there that this was the largest tofu maker in Taiwan. And this is just about the whole manufacturing facility right here. There were a couple of other photos that didn't come out quite as well. But this is these workers here are taking tofu and wrapping vegetables in it, and then they'll be processed into a dinner sort of ready-to-eat food. And these here have soy milk in, and then every hour or so they skim off these sheets and then hang them there to dry, and then those are used for making another wrapped product as well. Yeah, so one night we had, there just happened to be a lantern festival going on, and so a group of us took the subways to this. These are all made out of paper. They're rather amazing. And then the next day we headed out of Taipei, and it was really quite remarkable to see that just about any piece of flat land is under cultivation, and usually rice. So these are all rice paddies, of course, because of the time of the year. Most of the paddies were just water. There were a couple of areas where sprigs were starting to come up, and when we went further into the central part or a more tropical area, you'll see a couple of greener shots. But every little area where it was flat was being cultivated for food. This upper right, motor scooters are big, and that just gives you an idea, like a typical parking lot, just loaded with hundreds of motor scooters. And I put this picture on the bottom right just to give you an idea. Again, the number of sort of small enterprises. This is like typical stores that we saw, and lots of fun to go visit. Really friendly people, and at night when we were all done with the tour, Nancy and I would take the back streets and wander through and go into these shops, and even though we weren't able to speak the same language, we were able to communicate somehow. And this one here I thought was kind of cool. Again, this one I just took in passing. I was later told this was a doctor promoting natural health, but also the poster to the left, if you see the only English words on that say no nukes. Unfortunately, this picture doesn't come out too well because it's a slide of a slide that I took these pictures during this presentation. But every little manufacturer that we went into started out with a slide presentation and lots of food. I mean, every time we stopped and got off the bus, we were fed quite generously with the products that they make. But what I found really impressive is that most of the factories are really quite small. This one was 4,000 square meters and employs 21 people. It manufactures 32,000 bottles of soy milk every day, and they only have one production line, but they have several products. They have an organic soy milk, they have organic black soy milk, they have organic vegetable juices, and then they have an organic grapefruit juice. And the bottle on the top right, you see the Canadian flag. Well, that's a soy milk made with Alexander and Margaret's soybeans, right here from PEI. And you can see again in their company timeline how proud they are of their organic certifications, that they talk about not just the products that they develop, but also when they reached various certifications. And this is the factory. Again, it's really, and this was probably one of the larger ones. Very modern equipment, quite clean, and very compact. So the actual footprint, I thought it was really great that, of course, in the 10, 11 days we were there, we didn't get to see a whole picture of the city, of the country. But seeing some of these plants and being told that they were some of the largest left me with the impression that there must be a whole lot of plants like this and ones that are even smaller. On the way back, you can see here's some rice starting to grow, but even vegetable gardens right under the highway pass, and people starting to work in the paddies, getting ready for new cropping season. That afternoon, we went to the Lizen's. Lizen is, I'll take some time and try to explain to you the various levels of organizations that we're working with here. Lizen is a for-profit company. They own I think 96 grocery stores in Taiwan, and they're planning to open more. So roughly 100 grocery stores in Taiwan. They also have a half a dozen in California. They follow a spiritual leader whom I'll talk about in a minute with a slide. But their spiritual leader basically a number of years ago said, start growing food organically and start following, studying the Buddhist scriptures. So Lizen is a for-profit company that provides the funding to build the monasteries and allow the monks to study here in PEI. They have an organization called Bliss and Wisdom that looks after the monks, and they also have a foundation called the Moonlight Foundation, which actually has an office here in Charlottetown, and they've only been in existence for a couple of years and have already given away over $2 million worth of products to needy people in PEI. So these are the kind of people we're dealing with. Now this is their tea factory. Tea is a really important part of the Chinese culture, and they were quite concerned about the chemical usage in tea production because it's being grown on a hillside and the runoff was starting to pollute the water system. So they took over this tea plantation and converted it to organic, and this is their company motto, mission statement, which says, it's called Pure Spring. Behind every sip of organic tea is the hope to stop the endless demand for resources from the earth. Start learning to respect each living being until we understand that no one can survive by himself. Depending on each other, emerging into Mother Earth brings us wholeness and happiness. And actually, that's the president of Lisan there, Glendy, with Nancy. Unfortunately, it was raining, or they were going to have us go out into the fields and pick tea. But this is a presentation they gave at the tea factory. They're quite proud of having started the conversion of the tea industry to organic production, and they have this Organic Agriculture Foundation, which is looking after, guarding the earth, developing a conservation park, and most importantly, as I say, in terms of the tea industry, is helping to keep the water pure. So at the tea plant, we did go through this tea ceremony, which they broke us all into little groups, and we all had our own teapot and learned how to make a proper cup of tea. Another night shot after the tour was over, just walking around downtown Taiwan, and then heading back to the night market again. And I took this picture just to show you in this one stand the incredible array of mushrooms. There's 3, 6, 7, 8 trays of different types of mushrooms from that one seller, and then all sorts of vegetables from other people as well. Another typical shot of the older part of Taiwan, where every one of those stalls is a different enterprise, usually with people living above them. And of course, we went to a monastery. This was actually the largest monastery. I could spend a whole day talking about this place. It was too incredible to give it justice for a short presentation like this. But just outside of it, again, there's a guava orchard down here, some peddlers selling their produce. Again, right underneath a highway pass is their garden. This picture I took for 2 reasons. One, to impress upon you the density of the population, but I also thought it was pretty cool that everybody's house has a solar hot water heater on it. And those steel tanks that you see are very common. I think everybody on the trip was kind of fascinated by them because you see them everywhere. And I think it's because, again, because of the density of the population, what they do is those tanks get filled with water, and then the water for the potable water in the house comes from those. I think that helps maintain an even pressure throughout the city, rather than everybody turning on the pump at the same time. So then we headed out to another one of Lisan's stores, and you see the word organic right on the outside. Lisan tries to sell just organic products, but what they can't source organic, they seek residue-free, and they have their own laboratories where they'll run products through over 60 tests to make sure that they're residue-free. And because their customers know that and have such trust in the company doesn't spend any money on advertising at all. It's just the trust of their clients that they rely upon. But here again we have PEI berries. There's some organic cranberries from Quebec, and some other berries from, I think these were from BC. You've got PEI Juice Works as well as PEI berries bottles there as well. And again, this is another store with another Canada Day display. Like Mary Kay was talking about the reputation of potatoes, well, Canada has an incredible reputation in Taiwan for its purity. People look for the Canada label whenever they're shopping as a sign of purity. And as I say, again, this represents a pretty huge market in terms of the population size, almost equal to all of Canada. These are some of the products again. You see the powdered drinks here. There's also buckwheat grouts here, a a can of an oat and soy drink, and then those are soybean nuts up there that are roasted, and those bottles back there are the Beatty's soy milk. So these are red kidney beans. They grow here, same variety. And I took this picture of Nancy because I was just so impressed with any store we went into. And at first I thought it was because we were on a tour, that the people in the store were like going out of their way to pay attention to us. But when we were off on our own as sort of like anonymous people, we were also really impressed with how many people work in stores, how generous they are with their time and willing to help you find things. It was a really different experience than what we had last night when we went to Target. And again, here's more organic soy, organic black bean products. So these are the major organic import products that they're looking for. In terms of grains, it's of course soybean, although surprisingly they don't like our variety of soybean. So we're still doing important soybean trials to get the type of soybean that they do like. They're buying our soybean because we have an important relationship with them in terms of the monks that are here. And a lot of those monks that are here are actually the children of some of the top people in the business structure of Les Indes. So they're really committed to PEI in a way that nowhere else is. But oats, of course, you know, what an earlier speaker said, the island agriculture was founded on growing oats, right? Nuts, not so much, but fruit, apples and blueberries we can grow here. Dried fruits, cranberries and blueberries. And I don't know if you tried, before you leave, try the dried cranberries over here. There's a sample of the typical ones you see in the store from Ocean Spray and the PEI cranberries. And those guys can tell you the story, I won't, but the taste is all you need to know. The oils, again, we do grow flax here, grapeseed, but teas, herbal tea is also very important, as well as black teas and green tea. And juice, apple juice, grape juice, orange juice. And I purposely put this jar here. This is a jar of buckwheat honey. And if you see the relevance of that picture, you should come talk to us, okay? It's already there. Okay, so one day we went to the Bliss and Wisdom's farm, which is called the Mayuan Farm. Their motto is cultivating our spiritual life. And again, they work with their organic foundation to teach farmers to transition to organic and to promote organic research. So this is their spiritual leader, whom the Buddhists here are following as well. Master Ji Shang was, he actually died about 10 years ago, but he had such an important influence on people that they're still following his teachings. And you know, this was his primary message that he gave to people, and this is why they're buying land and looking for organic product on PEI. It's to restore the land and purify people's heart, and we started restoring land and organic agriculture in 1995. So they're interested in their farm is they took over an old sugar plantation and started converting to agriculture and wanting to expand their knowledge and their practices to go from small farmers to larger farming operations. So their mission is to create a holistic ecosystem, preserve the biodiversity and wildlife, promote organic agriculture, provide opportunities for experience and exchange, and revitalize the earth and benefit future generations. What do they produce? Cosmos, interestingly enough, was the first one on the list, which I thought was rather remarkable, because most of us just know this as a pretty flower that reseeds itself. But it's very it attracts a lot of beneficial insects, and so you know during the growing season they'll plant this as the way we do hedgerows for attracting birds and beneficials. They'll be planting cosmos, sunflowers, canola, And Sasabina is a tree in the pea family. It's a legume. It's used for a shade tree for growing coffee, and they use it for firewood and fencing. It's a very fast growing. But they also produce lots of carrots, corn, pineapples. Edamame is a soybean. I don't know why they have a different name, but it might be for soy nut or something. And potatoes and rice. And then they do demonstration trials where they're trying to grow no-till potatoes. So what they do with no-till potatoes is, anybody that's grown potatoes in a garden scale might have tried this before, where rather than digging potatoes into the ground, you just mulch over them. It actually helps with deterring Colorado potato beetle, as well as they claim late blight, which I wasn't aware of. So again, their milestones that they talk about was that some of their product or their farm was selected by the Council of Agriculture as to receive government support, and the entire farm was certified in 2005. They have $60 million in revenue. That looks like a lot of money, but it's new Taiwanese dollars in this figure. But it's still a lot of money. It's $250,000 in roughly in Canadian dollars. So they produce 200 tons of carrots, 180 tons of corn, and 80 tons of edamame. In terms of their annual crop per hectare, I think those figures are fairly impressive.
How big is the farm?
It's 120 hectares. But it's not like 120 hectares of crop. There's like lots of ponds and experimental places and just fun places to be. It's more like a permaculture farm. But I thought this was very interesting, again, in terms of where their product goes. About half of it goes to Lee Zin. But what I thought was really interesting was that 25%, Joy, 25% of this goes to schools of what they produce. And then the remaining is either direct marketed or goes to local stores. Big emphasis on education. They have summer students that come out here, do internships, and learn to farm and develop an appreciation for the planet. This was kind of cool, and you might see something like this in the Legacy Garden out back. We've been talking about building a huge trellis like this. Of course, this time of the year, that we were there in February, it didn't look that lush, but that was loaded with loofah sponges, which are then going on this roof once they dry. But this is just a little cabana that they built, and made out of a palm roof, and then they built this structure here to hold loofah sponges. So they're going to make a green roof that it's going to be totally organic. There's like no synthetic materials in it at all. So I thought was really pretty cool. So anyway, there's still lots of herbs growing at the base, but the loofahs and the passion fruits and other vines have been harvested for the most part. We all went through a tree planting ceremony, which was lots of fun. And then the top right, we made some lotus tea. And this is taro root here, just an example of some of the crops that they grow on this farm and doing research into production. This was kind of fun too, because it's an artificial wetland system for purifying water that they are quite proud about. Anybody that's familiar with the technologies that were adopted from the Ark, this is where it came from. And Bliss and Wisdom also has a residential school, and we spent part of an afternoon there. There was some signage welcoming us there. Some students gave us some presentations. And agriculture and getting outdoors is a big part of their education. So this is the gardens here where there are all sorts of tomatoes and bananas and local sort of ethnic vegetables being grown. Then we went to the Yulin Agricultural Expo. And this was quite an interesting building here in that it was it's made out of paper, and it's a replica of the state capitol building. And the reason why they made it a replica of the state capitol building is because inside they wanted to honor their farmers and give it and provide us with that symbolic message that their farmers are every bit as important, if not more important, than the politicians. And so what they do in here is they have these fabulous photos throughout the entire building with displays of what their farmers are producing. This was an interesting sign here, which I won't get into a whole lot, but it does talk about how the corporatists and the capitalists have taken over so much of their agriculture, not giving significant voice to the small farmers, and how their history has been made possible through the collective writings of their small farmers. It was really kind of interesting art display that was like Lezen has a display at this agricultural fair. And this fair was hundreds of acres big, and like there were tens of thousands of people there. I mean there's thousands of people wherever you go in Taiwan, but it was really pretty busy. Anyway, this is an interesting art piece. They have taken rusted, broken pieces of large-scale agricultural implements and burnt them in this fire, and then planted these plants to come up to talk about how the old system is being reborn and a new, greener system is coming into being. And once we went into the Lezen display, we saw boxes like this of soils that were being managed with organic implements as opposed to soils that were being chemically treated, so that people could see the difference in terms of the biological activity and the tilth of the soil. On the top right is a little retort for making biochar, and there's a garden there with biochar being planted in it. This was a pretty cool art display in which it was a round building with mirrors, and this is just a mirror reflection on the ceiling. And these are all bottles and waste and things to just give you an idea of the overwhelming abundance of over-packaging and the impact that it has on our environment. And this was a display which I thought was pretty cool too, which was to show you all the chemical additives and colorings that go into our food, and how we need to wake up to this and be aware of it. And then there were just some fun contraptions there that were like some welders just took a whole bunch of agricultural implements and welded them together to make these pretty cool mobile sculptures. And this is a container that's been has bales of straw surrounding it, and it's actually on the other side it's a food concession stand. You can see it in there. So here's an example of the cosmos and the sunflowers, and some other demonstration gardens. I think you can expect to see similar gardens like this in the Legacy Garden out back this summer. The next day we were at the Yumon bean plant where they make those powdered drinks that you were asking about. So again, when you look at, this guy started out as a plumber, but then when he started listening to the spiritual leader, he saw the harm the pesticides were using, chemical fertilizers, led to severe environmental damages in human health. So if there were no changes are made today, there is regret in the future, said their spiritual leader, and so they began organic farming in 1998. Again, this is a very small factory. It's only 1,000 square meters, and it's employing 11 people. And they make organic soy powder, organic black bean powder, the 5-grain powder, a goji berry wheat powder, and brown rice powder, and a baboa rice drink as well. And this is the entire factory. What was really cool about this was that it was probably no bigger than 1/3 of this space in terms of its footprint, but it was 3 stories tall. So you go in the back door. Actually, if you go in the front door, you would never know it was a factory. It just looked like one of those residential streets that I showed you pictures of before. You go in the back door, there was an elevator that brought all the raw materials up to the top floor, where they soak the beans here, and then they begin to process them, mash them up, cook them, and then run them through these various processes. And with each process, drops a floor, so that by the time they have the finished product, it's on the ground floor, ready to go outside, which was really pretty cool. beautiful flowers and displays and presentation of food wherever you go. This here, I had to take a picture of because people know that I'm kind of into living walls. But wherever there's a construction site going on, instead of chain link fences and plywood, they have living walls. It's like really, so that's just a construction site behind that wall. So then we went to the Beans Food Club, and one factory, this is like just a sample of all the products that they make. And I was really impressed with the first slide that they showed in their presentation here, which said business not only means making money, but also responsible for giving back to society. And that's the president of the company saying that. And so they were very proud of their 5 no's in their products. No preservatives, no bleaching, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, no saccharin. They were struggling because the process of drying these products was expensive and they didn't have any market. But they met the people from Lizen, and Lizen started buying their product because of their philosophy and their commitment to the earth and society, and now they're a thriving business thanks to Lizen. And then this is some pictures of the factory. Just about every factory we went into has a temple somewhere, a little place for prayer. This is a sample of the foods that were presented to us. You know, this was like, you know, in front of every seat there was this much food to sample. Again, very modern factory. This was kind of cool. I think none of us had seen this before, but after we got all dressed up with masks and suits and hats, which we had to kind of do with most factories that we went into, we went into this air shower where it was like a closet about as big as this table where 3 of us would stand in there, and then all this air would start blowing in from every direction, and it's just wipe you clean with air. And then we were allowed to go into the rest of the factory. Golden Crops was probably one of the largest companies we went to visit. A tremendous array of products. And this is, again, just one processor. Again, I'm sorry for the quality, but I'm just taking pictures of slides that were being shown on a wall. But this here shows you where they get their products from. Australia, some from Taiwan. No, well, they get their rice from Taiwan. But Australia, United States, France, Brazil, and New Zealand. And they're importing 5,000 metric tons of oats and 130 metric tons of organic oats. Again, this is just one company making a wide array of products, including baby products. These rice chocolate cookies were phenomenal, and actually the best-selling product that Lizen had in their stores. The Chinese have a real sweet tooth. Everything is really, really sweet. Which brings me back to the jar of buckwheat honey, because if you're paying attention to what's going on in the world of sugar, Monsanto has now moved into Brazil. Most of the sugar that we buy in the store is now going to be GMO. So there might be a real opportunity for natural sweeteners again, like honey. Organic oat pasta, baby products, they were kind of apologetic actually here about the cans because of the packaging that requires and the footprint that the ecological footprint that it has. But they said, look, it's the perception among the consumer that if it's in a can, it's a better product. And so because of that consumer perception, they're kind of forced into to canning some of their products. This is an oat drink. And all it is oats and water. And this is Golden Crops again. There's another display of some of their products. And then this up here where he's pointing is a monitor. Darcy, you'd be interested in this. This is live showing how much electricity they're producing off the photovoltaics on the roof of their building. And the government pays them to produce electricity for the region. Beautiful flower displays wherever you go. These orchids were just probably one of the more humble flower displays I saw. And again, another little area for prayer. Chowchin, this is the company that produces this organic carrot juice, and they have a patented process where they use an enzyme which preserves the nutrients and the color of the carrot. It's maybe why you've been wondering why you don't see carrot juice here, is that you can't really process it here along standard means and still have any kind of nutrient value to it. And this picture here, I just had to take a picture of. It doesn't show up very well, but unfortunately I did not get to taste it, but it's called Sparkling Euphoria. And I thought, gosh, who wouldn't want that, right? But again, their timeline, which they're showing, you know, the most important features that they're talking about, we're getting halal certification, their own Taiwanese certification, their USDA organic certification, et cetera, et cetera. Now this is interesting here, ADAPT board members. We were at a lunch. This was a 10-serving midday lunch, and this is barley juice that was served at our dinner. And so obviously I had to take a picture of this. And this is just a nice wooden sculpture. This. $1,224 new Taiwanese dollars for that box of apples, which I think converts to about $25.
40.
I
think that box was $40.
40. I could, if anybody's really concerned, I can do my calculator later. But I mean that wasn't typical. On whole, the food I was kind of surprised cost about the same as it does here once you did the conversion. But when you take something that's nicely packaged like that and they're perfect, you know, you can get a good dollar for it. So this was the last stop that we took, which was Seasoned Organics. This is a wholesaler only, and they supply the Lizen stores as well as others. They have over 200 organic products. They bring in 3,000 tons per year. And they have over 100 retail customers in Taiwan. Their suppliers are over 40 farms in Taiwan, and their products come from 20 different countries. And this picture I just threw in because I couldn't get in the other one, but this was back at the Bliss and Wisdom farm, and that's etched in there. It says Compassionate Farm. So, this is just one of the final pictures. Lots of coffee roasters in these independent little shops around town. These are just two of them. These were actually some Canadians ran this place that moved there. And this was like one of the last stops Nancy and I made before we left town. Guys selling warm almond milk there that was really great. And that was it. So it's the International Year of the Horse, or the Year of the Horse in China, which means a symbol of prosperity and wealth, and just to emphasize the potential opportunity that Taiwan offers. I'm not particularly saying that we should all glom on to the market in Taiwan, because it is halfway around the world. But the organic market is growing all over the world, and it's nice to know that as far away as you can possibly get, there's a huge market that's committed to PEI. So thank you.
Well, Phil, it certainly would appear that the investment of dollars, both by the ADAPT Council and by the province, was a good investment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this just about concludes the things that we have on the agenda. Yes?
We have a question.
Have you what?
Can we make a question to Mr. Ferraro?
Yes, please go ahead.
I realized that they irrigate the rice field. What they use? Salt water or fresh water?
I'm sorry, the salt water or fresh water with regard to what?
To irrigate the rice
Oh, I see.
or any other product.
Yeah, no, actually, you know, I took lots more pictures than what I used in this presentation, right? And which was kind of interesting was that the riverbeds would be huge and just rocky riverbeds. And then the time of the year we were there, it was just like this little stream going through, right? But when it rains, it really rains. And the banks of those rivers were all diked to stop the overflow of once the river fills up. So, you know, they have a lot of fresh water when it starts raining. And I think that's one reason why, you know, rice works so well there, is that they can flood the paddy with the water and then drain it out again. But no, it's fresh water that they're using. Yeah.
So being an island, they don't use the salt water because
No.
you can grow salt water.
Well, I don't know. I'm no expert in growing rice, obviously. So I didn't really ask that question. All I saw was where they were using, like in the farm that we went to visit, they were using a water purification system that included the rice paddy as part of it.
Thank you very much. It's a lot of information there.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else wants to utilize the opportunity to come up and speak for any given reason?
I have another comment, Mr. Madonna.
Go ahead,
What,
please.
do you relate, they don't have dairy milk, they have pseudonymous? Is that because it's a religious cow, the cow is a religious figure? Or why they don't have dairy?
Well, why they don't dairy? Because they don't have any room for it. I mean, it's a really mountainous province, so that where it's level, they're growing rice and some other vegetables. But they just,
What is people?
well, also it's 35% Buddhist, right? So they're vegetarian. Now I don't know anything about Taoism, except Alan Watts was a Taoist. So I don't know if they're vegetarian as well, but meat is not a big product there.
They have from almonds and other rice and so milk, pseudonymous.
Yeah.
Why we don't export milk from cows, from PEI, to them?
Yeah, well, they don't drink too much of it, and they are getting some of it. Now, one slide there that I showed of the organic milk was by far the largest. I don't know, did you guys see any, you didn't see any large displays of milk in stores, did you?
No, the shipping, it takes a good 45, 50 days.
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
It's a really long shipping, and it's usually in a very mild and climate.
There is milk that is stayed good for 3 months in Europe.
It's not organic.
Well, we don't
Yeah,
have to
Chris.
worry about that, but-
I'll take your question, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I can speak loud enough. Anybody cannot hear me? Anyway, this is it sounds like a joke, but it's a true story. It happened a number of years ago. This one sports mom was at a sporting event, soccer, and speaking to another sports mom. And one was from the farm, the other one was from the city. And one said to the other about how expensive vegetables are in the store.